What role can spirituality possibly play in the business context? Is it a new age rhetoric or a more balanced, empowering practice? To find out, I have been joined by Kumar Rajagopalan, country head India at DISYS, a global technology and consulting firm specializing in managed services, business consulting, and IT non IT staffing services. Welcome, Kumar. The sentiment that most of us perceive is that building a business is based essentially on the creation of revenue, personal money, and wealth building, and is completely at odds with any form of spirituality. What does the term spiritual entrepreneurship mean to you? And how do you believe it can contribute to the growth of a $5 trillion economy?
Thank you. Thanks, Ashwani. So I think probably I'll take it. So the very phrase which you said, is it a rhetoric? So when so many people are thinking about it, uh, then obviously it is not a rhetoric one. It is probably people are moving towards that. Um, Obvious reasons, because first it was an era of maximizing profits. And then there is an era of maximizing profits, but at the same time, optimizing their resources, because they don't want to spend unnecessarily and they just wanted to kind of use the resources in a more balanced way. And now into an era at this point of time, it's like more there are values which are required to run a business, and each CEO, whether they discuss internally with the employees or they discuss with other stakeholders, there is an element of socialness and or I would say, a value towards the society, whether they are creating it, is the main agenda. So the purpose is slightly elevated right now. It's like why this my company exists or why we exist here, and the purpose is just not about making profits, because they now realize like it has to be much beyond that one. And it is true, so because sustaining the profits for long is not a possibility anymore unless you are connected with the society and they also contribute towards your growth, and which automatically means that like there is a growing trend of bringing one. And you see the purpose for you and for the organization and for everyone, then it becomes the spirituality is all about purpose, finding a purpose. And when it becomes part of the uh, entrepreneurship or part of the business building, it's a spiritual entrepreneurship with automatic elevation.
Absolutely, very interesting, Kumar. So I'm reminded of this quote from Milton Friedman, again a great late economist, and who held his ground for a long time. And I remember one of his quotes was, "The business of business is business." And that held true for a long period of time. But we are living in a different era altogether. And yes, businesses have started to focus and look at their models, contributing to the society, looking at the environmental concerns as well. So yes, it's definitely shaping up, and it's a trend that most of them are looking at. You spoke about having a purpose. How do you define the intersection? How the intersection between spirituality and entrepreneurship? How does one go about it?
Okay, so the purpose. Well, let's take the purpose for example. So everyone has certain purpose in life to kind of achieve. Without a purpose, like you just go directionless most of the time. And here it is generally the intention is only a CEO of the company looks at the purpose, and rest of the people are just in employment. Uh, then the whole thing gets defeated. So the idea is of spiritual entrepreneurship is like every employee in the organization or every person who is contributing to the society should think about it, whether there is a value in it and what value which they bring it out, including the ethical values. When I talk about values, even a simple value for a colleague is whether I'm creating one employment for my brother or sister or my next needy person or whatever it is. So India right now, even in IT world, if you really look at it, it's 6 million jobs right now. Every year it is growing. But the thing is, pure and simple fact is still the productivity is so low, which means that the ownership is missing. So the purpose here is like if my purpose is to increase the productivity of myself and also my colleagues and my organization, then it creates the brand value of the whole company as well as the country. So it goes from the top, bottom to bottom up, and goes all the way up to the top. There is a purpose, and the purpose you have to define it. Nobody is going to define that one. Automatically, the spiritual elevation, in that way it happens. So over a period, a lot of examples have been set in, especially in India. So I would probably, because being in India and read about a lot of Indian stories and mythologies and other scriptures, typically is like kind of the purpose of evolving, including in Gita, it says like don't have any attachment. The purpose is what which drives you, and you have to do your duties with that purpose. But unfortunately, now in between, we lost our philosophy of the duties and the purpose, and more we look at instant gratification, instant appreciation from somebody, and we do our work based on that appreciation, and then it stops you from growing further if the appreciation is not there. So here the spiritual thing comes in force, and mostly is like kind of I would say the post 2019 onwards, after this COVID, people are started thinking about it, like whether my purpose is just to kind of do check boxes, or do I need to do much more than that one. So you would have seen a lot of people have been helping the others, going out of the way to kind of do that work, not just focused on only what they are very limited thing which they can do. So I define it that way.
Absolutely. So, any examples that you would want to cite here, Kumar? In terms of companies who are, who have embodied or who have embraced this concept and are moving forward.
Yeah. So I will start with like some of the books which I read before starting some of the companies which have followed. But the most obvious thing is a book by Ray Dalio, which is Principles. So Bridgewater Associates is one of the company which he brought it out, and the struggles which he went through. So I was so interested, curious to know about many of the corporations, many of the organizations, how they built it. My readings have always been how they build their large organizations, in fact. So this one was so unique in a sense. The book name itself is Principles. So he made sure that like every principle, when something is put in force, like there is a metrics around it, and people follow the metrics and follow the meritorious way, so that like the values are there. If one person is not doing the work, there is other person who is doing additional job to make sure the organization is sustaining. So which is not the way, because it is unfair then. So everybody has to contribute, so every small little contribution becomes large. So that book actually changed my mindset in terms of what needs to be done. The next is of course like kind of the Zappos CEO, Tony Hayes. So he brought out Delivering Happiness. In fact, in this book, he mentioned about five. I think if I remember right, it's about like four P's. One is the profit, second is people, third is process, and the fourth one is the purpose. So he put purpose on top of everything else. If the purpose is defined properly, all others follow the purpose. And it is where it is very important that the companies need to have a clear vision on the purpose, what they wanted to do. So delivering happiness, he said very clearly, the customer needs to be happy, whatever which you do. Every activity of yours should make the customer happy. So it's the purpose based on which that company was built, and it was very successful. The third book which I read, which was The Art of Business, this was again Hubert Joly. He was a CEO of Best Buy. He again made it the purpose drives most of the things, profits come second. So he changed the customer experiences and the front office field staff experiences, how it directly impact the customer satisfaction, then rest of the things follow. So if you really look at it, like first their understanding profit is not the key creation, it is only the purpose. And in India, if you really look at it, leave alone the rest of the profit organizations, I'm talking about even 1,000 years old, some of the great philosophical masters of ours, they always put their purpose front. They went about it. There is no selfish motive there. And then they built the whole ecosystem around that one. So a lot of philosophies came out. So be it Advaita or Vasishtha Advaita or any other thing. So they built the society around that one, how the purpose is evolved. And mostly, if you really look at it, all their purpose is towards achieving the common goal of the society in general, not the individual in per se. So when that is made, automatically the success was guaranteed, and the whole thing move into a different dimension altogether. So if I take the Indian example of companies, the first company which comes into my mind, always been fascinated, is ITC. So it's 1910 to now, it's about 100 years. The whole thing changed. Now they're supporting close to 6 million farmers. So what it was once considered as a tobacco company, completely out of sync with the society, but now is completely into the with the society, and then making it even bigger and bigger. Now they are in 100 years, till 1980, what they have not achieved in a short span of 40 years, they achieved at least like 100 times the growth. So the purpose defines the whole thing for them, and it is moving towards that one. So the purpose here is can be anything. So India is a great country for the services. So if you really look at it, even if you go to anybody's house, the first things they offer is the food, water, everything. They take them. So we call Aditi Devo Bhava, means that like every guest is our like our god. So we take the service as a matter of pride, and we provide that. Any village, any house we go. But unfortunately, is like, that's the principle based on which, if you really look at it, in the last 75 years, though agriculture was the primary first, but slowly and slowly, the service industry has outgrown most of the other industries, because by nature, from India, we always look at it, servicing is one of the topmost priorities. And that has shaped up our economy also. What we see right now is a 3.75 billion trillion economy to a next journey of 5 trillion, is mainly because of the service industry which is shaping place. And our manufacturing is good, but the productivity is low. So but the thing is, we always like to service people, be it even if there is a low productivity. So which means automatically people are attracted towards India when they wanted to start something out. So the global captive centers are the greatest examples right now, because the service industry, even the manufacturing, latent manufacturings are coming here, which is basically like make sure it is set up here, though the same consumption may not happen here, but people
Right.
would like to put it here. So the reason is the services. So that's based on which we should write. And that's why I'm saying the service is nothing but like the purpose for which you serve. And if you are shaping up better and better, then it's not 5 trillion, we can even reach the 10 trillion so soon.
Absolutely. So, very interesting insights from real life examples that you've shared, Kumar. And more so, employees also want to work for companies who stand for something, and the contribution that they make to society. That's another trend that is gaining a good amount of traction in the market. Internally, how have you been trying to adopt this mindset?
So it goes long back. So it is like typically, I studied in Ramakrishna Mission initially. So that has changed a lot in terms of my perspective. And in fact, my mom and dad, everybody very, very spiritual in nature, and my whole family. Uh, my wife is, in fact, takes a lot of pride in going to villages and everywhere, and talks about this moral instructions, spiritual topics and things like that. So we have been looking through that way always, and we always, a lot of discussion happens around that one. But the main thing is, of all the things, I would say, once the value is inculcated in a very young age, and then it stays throughout. So which means that like every person at their very youngest age, probably in a schools or college, they should be given the moral instructions classes very deeply. So take for example in India, uh, till about like 500 years back, most of the kings go to some gurus, the king's sons, typically, before they become a king, they go to some Gurukul, have the entire moral instructions done before they are eligible as a king. So if they come there into the power, then the fairness and the rest of the things, respect and everything comes in place, because they go through the entire education under a well-guided system, and they come into that one. So the moral instruction was one of the primary thing which was given, and the rest of the things followed. But unfortunately now it's so academic right now. We build a skill, and the skills are more trained towards like kind of how I can do this job, but it does not train towards like whether my heart is there when I'm doing the job. So this is the difference between a spiritual entrepreneurship or employment, or versus the entrepreneurship and employment without a spirituality in it. So if people get it so closely, then they can. So my example, to give a thing. So when I joined DISYS in 2012, it was a very, very small company. So at that point of time, it was not even established in India. It was in US. And US also, it wasn't a very large corporation. It's an average corporation, about like 232 million. But when 2012 to 2022, it shaped up a lot. So it was more focused on the numbers and analytics in the initial years. But what has changed over 10 years in the company also? Right now, the company, one of its core values is empathy. So it has changed to that much. So in fact, thanks to the continuous discussions, in fact, I keep telling my CEOs and the board, one of the things which I wanted to kind of pursue here is make sure that the employees are happy and they contribute automatically. So we have done a number of steps towards that one. And it is whether I kind of look at it as part of the social engineering or not. The main thing for me is like get them the secured feel. Once they get that secured feel, automatically the results will be produced, because you have the direct interaction with every employee, even at the lowest level. Directly ask them whether they take the ownership or not. So they don't need to kind of then show my manager did not tell me, my team lead did not tell me, my director did not tell me. All these things will be eliminated. So we did 7 M&As during the process. All these M&As have been done with a different culture. All cultures are integrated into that one. So now we have 7 companies into a single company. We're built up close to about like $1.4 billion company right now, with close to 13,000 employees, being part of one of the uh, uh, core team inside the CX team inside the company right now. But I can tell you is like kind of the lot changed over the period of time, and more importantly, in terms of the values which we wanted to provide to employees, customers, and everybody. And part of it is closely associated with my own purpose. So I keep telling that one. So it becomes automatic success when your purpose aligns with the organizational purpose and the overall purpose.
Absolutely. No, so you've well crafted or integrated the business practices with the spiritual values that emphasizes purpose and a positive impact. That's something that I could relate to from this conversation with you. Right, Kumar? I truly stand inspired with this conversation. And I'm sure our viewers will find this interesting as well. Look forward to having such more conversations with you in the future. Thank you.
Definitely. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Ashwani. Thanks a lot, Akriti and Viraj. So thanks for connecting with me.